Hello, everyone. Sorry if I've been MIA for a while, but I want to try to do some movie reviews every so often just to try to get them out. But today I watched a 2003 horror comedy that I don't think a lot of people has ever heard of, but honestly, it should be considered a cult classic, and if you know where to find it, I highly recommend it. It's the 2003 horror movie called Monster Man. And what it is, the plot follows about these two good friends who were on their way to on a road trip to see a former love of theirs who was getting married. But along the way, they meet a monster. They have an encounter with someone driving this Mad Max-looking inspired monster truck, and they encounter the driver who drives the monster truck. But they see how much of a deformity he is to a point he looks like a Frankenstein-style monster. Or in the movie they call him Fuckface, which that's kind of a funny nickname. So the two friends try to survive as much as they can so that way they can get the hell out of Dodge and try to avoid the Monster Man. Admittedly, it's kind of like a combination of the little elements of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a little bit like Jeepers Creepers, and on the poster... or one of the posters that mentioned those two movies and a little bit of the Steven Spielberg movie Duel as a main inspiration, which I can totally see that. But this movie is actually very underrated, and the downside is you really can't find it on any real streaming services, like not on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, or even Tubi. But if you know where to find it, I highly recommend it. And honestly, I hope it does get more of a cult following to some degree or another. But it's an underrated little horror slasher comedy. And the fact that this is one of the very few examples of a slasher movie where the killer drives a truck. There's only like a handful of like slasher or even like other horror films where one of the killing methods is by a vehicle. I mean, there might be some other examples, but that's as a primary example of a vehicular like manslaughter in a horror slasher movie. That's kind of unique. But I actually do highly recommend it. If you can somehow track down a copy or watch it somewhere, like last I heard it might be free on Dailymotion, I highly recommend you give it a shot because it's a really underrated horror flick, and I think it's a really effective movie. It's not super scary, but it's very humorous. The gore in it's actually really good, and the humor is also kind of like it's a early 2000s like road trip comedy, but it's still funny, and I highly recommend it. So check it out.